What's up guys, Lanh here from Android Authority, and there are a ton of Android phones out there, but we all have that one that is near and dear to our hearts, that one particular Android phone that we have really fond memories of and thoroughly enjoyed using. So from myself and a few of the guys here at Android Authority, here are some of our favorite Android phones of all time.
So what is my favorite Android phone of all time? Well, it has to be the Galaxy Note 5. Now, let me explain why. The very first kind of digital device that I had was a Palm Pilot, and it came with a stylus. And then before the age of Android, I also had a Windows CE phone, and that also came with a stylus. Now, once Android and the iPhone came out, I was like everybody else. I was used to using a finger-only interface. However, there are times when having a stylus is really, really important. And having the option of using a stylus has made the Note range for me an absolutely essential device. And so I had a Note 4 Edge, the Note Edge, and then I had the Note 5. I didn't get around to getting a Note 7 before things went wrong there, and I'm sure the Note 8 will replace the Note 5 as my best, most favorite device ever, but at the moment it is the Note 5. I couldn't live without it.
So what's my favorite Android phone of all time? It's an interesting question because until very recently, i.e. last year, I've always been a Galaxy Note man. And I'm going to take you back to last year. A lot of you may not agree, but for me, the Galaxy Note 7 is probably one of my favorite Android phones of all time, and for one main reason. Yes, it was a really complete phone. You know, apart from the problem with the battery blowing up, we all know that. You know, if you're gonna say it in the comments, please go ahead. It's kind of old, guys. The simple fact is that even though the Note 7 had a battery that blew up and Samsung basically screwed it up massively, it was still probably the most complete Android phone made. If I had to pick something else, I'm going to go back to the Galaxy Note 4, which was for me, was the first time an Android smartphone camera really competed with the iPhone, and in a lot of ways, and I've said this in a post, very similar post on the website, the camera on the Galaxy Note 4 really and truly set away the Android camera revolution that we've come to expect since. So there's my pick for the best Android phone of all time.
Favorite phone of all time? Gonna have to go with the Htc Thunderbolt, because that was my first phone ever, and, well, not first phone, first smartphone ever. And it had a kickstand, and it was metal, and it felt amazing, and it was one of the first 4G smartphones of all time, and it overheated on me in my hand because I was using too many applications at once. Skype was not good for that thing, but oh my gosh, it had the biggest screen I'd ever seen on anything ever. And I had to return it for a Droid charge, which was way, way worse of a phone, but that Thunderbolt still rings true in my head. I heard a text notification recently that sounded exactly like the initial text notification that I had on that smartphone, and it just brought back all this nostalgia, because that kickstand, that screen, just that metal body, that everything, the whole Thunderbolt logo that started when you started that smartphone. Too many memories.
So my favorite Android phone of all time has to go to the Moto X. I'm talking about the original OG Moto X. And if you guys remember, this phone came out at a time when Android phones were getting bigger, screens were getting larger and higher resolution, and the Moto X sort of went in the opposite direction. It was a smaller, more compact phone, and it didn't have the latest and greatest specs. But what it did offer was a really great Android user experience. It ran practically stock Android with a lot of really useful customizations from Motorola, like Moto Display, which had a different name at the time, but it later got renamed, and the twist of the wrist to launch the camera. And because it was running basically stock Android and Motorola was under the helm of Google, it received updates extremely quickly, sometimes faster than Nexus phones themselves. But what I loved most about the Moto X was the Moto Maker. This was a really groundbreaking thing at the time. It was something that was never done before, but it allowed you to customize the phone with different colored backs, accent colors, and you can also get it engraved with a custom message or your name. A lot of really cool stuff that you could do with this phone. I actually still have my original Moto X, and it brings me a lot of really good memories, so that's why it's my favorite Android phone of all time.
Hey guys, Joe Hindi here, and my favorite phone of all time is the LG V20. What I like about it is that it covers most, if not all, of the right bases. You get the usual baseline of good stuff, the specs are good, the camera is good, the battery is good enough, the screen is decent, and as far as gimmicks go, the second screen really isn't all that bad. It has 4 GB of RAM, it's not breaking any speed records, but everything you want is essentially there. Where this thing really shines are the power user features. It has 64 gigabytes of storage, and I rock a 200 gigabyte SD card, giving my V20 a total of 264 gigabytes of storage. The build quality is decent, and the battery is removable. Check and check. Additionally, the USB Type-C port is HDMI out compatible, and while it's not overly necessary, I feel better having something like that in place in case my Chromecast ever dies on me. The headphone jack has a DAC as well as a built-in amplifier that can support headphones with up to 600 freaking ohms of impedance. Amps with that kind of power cost a pretty penny all on their own. There are phones that beat out the V20 in most areas. It doesn't have the best specs anymore, and there are phones with better build quality, battery, and camera. However, there isn't a single use case that the V20 can't handle at least moderately well. From high impedance headphones to mobile gaming to taking a decent photo, the V20 can do pretty much whatever I need it to do. It's like my little Swiss Army knife. The glass on the camera lens is a little bit fragile, but when it comes to the Achilles heel of high-end smartphones, I prefer the ones that I can fix with a $10 case from Amazon as opposed to something I cannot do anything about. It's not perfect, but it checks all the boxes I could ever really want a smartphone to check.
So there you have it, guys. This has been our favorite Android phones of all time. Let us know what your favorite Android phone of all time is down in the comments below, and give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell while you're at it so you don't miss out on future videos, and check us out on social media: Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Google+, all that good stuff will be linked down below. And as always, check the website androidauthority.com because we are your source for all things Android.